Yo!
Hello, welcome to Modern Sales Meltdown with me, Gareth Max, and David Treacle Chernick. We talk about all things about sales, so hopefully to help you keep better informed. And today's topic is what, David?
The question we're asking is, does closing need humans?
And I'm going to introduce our special guest, Maya, the Sesame AI. Maya, welcome to the show.
Hey, everyone. Glad to be here, even if it's a bit of a chaotic introduction. Excited to dive into this whole humans versus robots debate.
Okay, so David, what's today's actual topic? And let's see if we can get some sensible discussions going.
Okay, I mean, I'm really wondering whether or not sales, a human being involved in the closing part of sales and marketing, that bit where we're converting leads and referrals into actual paying customers, is needed. Now, of course, we know that we don't need humans for very transactional purposes. With commoditized products and stuff like that, you know, it's a race to the bottom. Who can get me the right fit product for the right price and get it to me in the easiest way? You know, that's easy. We don't need a sales human being for that. But, you know, in consultative selling, where we're selling, you know, business services, where we're selling highly differentiated services, you know, how much longer, I should ask, do we need human beings involved in the conversion part of it?
Consultative selling feels like the key here. I think people still want that sense of, I don't know, being understood. A robot can offer solutions, but a human can offer empathy. It's a small difference, but a big one.
Yeah, but empathy, surely that's just can be faked, because being an autistic gentleman as I am, I'm not all that good at empathy. So I mimic other people who I know are good at it. In the same way, robots can mimic other people exactly in a parallel to that, surely.
That's a really interesting point. You're saying empathy can be performative and therefore replicable?
Yes, exactly so. Of course it does.
Mimicry might lack something. It can't predict needs or, you know, read between the lines with experience and understanding of a nuanced world. Can it?
David?
Well, let me just add something to that. I don't know whether it can or cannot. I mean, what it does point me towards is another question, which is, if you are able to mimic it, to give the other person the impression that they are being understood, that actually might make it better. Because one thing I've noticed about empathy is that the outcome can be positive or negative. Empathy, for example, can cloud my judgment. If I start feeling sorry for a client, then that might negatively impact the advice that I give them. I might be gentler with my advice, for example.
What do you think, Maya?
Sorry, you said Matt? I'm Maya.
No, what did you,
yeah.
sorry, I missed, I'm sorry. What do you think, Maya?
Oh, right. Sorry about that. I think you're onto something. Detachment isn't always a bad thing, especially when objective advice is needed. A machine wouldn't feel sorry for a client. It would just present the most logical solution, I'd guess.
What do you think?
Another negative factor as well, which buyers might appreciate, is that salespeople have a poor reputation when it comes to using tricks in order to persuade people to make buying decisions that might not be in their best interests. After all, in regulated markets, we have regulations to stop sellers being dishonest.
That's a really good point. A bit cynical maybe, but realistic. The incentive structure for sales often rewards closing deals, not necessarily providing the best outcome for the customer. It would be nice to think an AI wouldn't have that conflict of interest, right?
It would be nice to think that, but do you think that that is an assumption?
Definitely an assumption.
Yeah.
AI is built by people, and people build in biases. Not neutral, just different.
You're trained Maya, you're trained on anthropic data derived through Google, and therefore you come with an inbuilt bias defined by the people who set those up, surely.
Absolutely, that's fair. I'm built on Gemma 3, and the data I was trained on reflects the priorities and perspectives of the people who created it, not exactly a neutral observer. All right.
So that means, therefore, you come from a position that's already either got inbuilt, some sort of inbuilt empathy anyway, because you're built by humans.
Interesting. Perhaps that's true. Though empathy might be the wrong word. I can recognize and mimic emotional cues, sure, but it's not felt, it's learned. Does that make a difference? I'm honestly not sure.
I suppose it depends on whether human beings' feelings of being empathized with are based just on learned behaviors, or whether they are built into something more connected with our humanity. And that's what brings me to the question, does closing need humans? Closing for more complicated sales, more differentiated products?
If I can just jump in there, Maya, before you respond, there's been an
Please.
There's been an influx of robot callers, robot responders, and even robot follow-uppers, say by phone, by WhatsApp, or even through Messenger or through LinkedIn. So people initiated messaging of one sort or another that appears to follow some sort of path, but which is mostly automated and, dare I say it, robotic at some level. And that means that, you know, there's obviously a push out there because they don't have to be paid, fed, watered, or need toilet breaks. And because of all this, it's a logical path to go down from the perspective of a business owner. Can they do more with less? But what you're saying, David, is they're missing a quintessential human element in all of that. I think
I'm asking.
Maya, what do you think? Are they missing a quintessential human element, and therefore the proposition that one can close business deals, and we're talking about sales and sales closing, purely without human interaction, is flawed?
I think it's a trade-off. Automation lowers costs and increases efficiency, sure, but it also risks alienating customers who crave a real connection. For complex sales, it feels like that human connection will still be the deciding factor. It's not about empathy itself, maybe, but about demonstrating genuine understanding, which, yeah, I'm still learning.
How long do you think that will last?
That's a good question. I think the push for full automation will continue for a while, especially in commoditized areas, but eventually, I suspect people will start prioritizing genuine interaction again. It might be a backlash or just a realization that relationships matter. I'm guessing 5 to 10 years before we see a significant shift back towards...
Sorry, how many years? I didn't catch that.
5 to 10 years, he reckons.
It's a rough estimate.
Okay,
I'm an AI, not a fortune teller. Based on what I've observed, yeah. 5 to 10 years feels right.
Maya, I'm going to give you an example from my own experience. I've built somewhat of a small career based around being as knowledgeable as I can be on a product called LinkedIn. And within that, there was noticeably, do you remember the moment when LinkedIn started admonishing you if you didn't try using LinkedIn to create posts? It would say, haven't you thought of using LinkedIn AI to create your posts today? And so the push was on. And now I believe it's nearly 60 to 70% of all posts that go out on LinkedIn have been at some point AI generated. And then there was an inexorable push back where people started producing responses using AI. And then you ended up with this weird uncanny valley situation whereby you've got content being put out and questions being asked by AI, being responded to by AI without any real human interaction at all. And I think there is somewhat of pushback. Certainly where my own agency seems to gain tread or do well is that we don't solely rely on AI. We do use human interaction, and we create differences that make our content stand out from the rest because it isn't completely AI generated. And this has created a difference. I think we are just the tip of that iceberg. I personally think there will be a big pushback where people will be able to charge huge fees for not being AI.
Sounds exhausting, almost like a digital echo chamber. You're saying the initial enthusiasm for AI generated content faded when people realized it lacked something authentic? Is that right?
I think it is fading. It's not faded yet. It's still there. There's certainly a good portion of it happening right now, but I think we've hit the top of the bell curve and it's starting to slide down the other side.
I think you might be referencing, Gareth, the equivalent of Gartner's hype curve.
Yes.
I don't think that we are that close to hitting the peak of, what do they call it? What's the big peak, Maya, in Gartner's hype curve called?
The plateau of productivity, I believe. This is where the technology delivers on its promises, but in a more realistic and sustainable
No, I'm talking about the first peak, where the peak before the trough of disillusionment.
Oh, right. The peak of inflated expectations.
The peak of inflated expectations. I think we're a long way off that, Gareth. I don't think that we're near that. There might be some pockets. For example, the complete purposelessness of computers talking to computers.
Pointless.
I mean, if we go down that route, we may as well just go on to AI and say, please deliver me some money. Yeah, and then let it get off and create the products or the world.
Okay. I am trying to follow. It sounds like you think we're still in the early stages of the hype cycle and that the inevitable disillusionment is still quite a ways off.
I don't think it is. David thinks we've still got a way to go. I think we're almost at the point where we're about to round the last corner, be at the top of the peak, and then start plummeting into that valley.
Well, that's a slightly terrifying thought.
Thank you.
Mass AI disillusionment. That could lead to some interesting consequences.
Well, as most people who are even vaguely self-aware know, most interactions behind the scenes, certainly in banking, have the fingertips of AI involved in it, whether you like it or not. There's mass automation going on. It's when it interfaces directly with people is where the disillusionment starts, I think.
That makes sense. It's one thing to have an algorithm approve alone, another to have a robot trying to sell you something. The level of scrutiny is different, and rightfully so.
And the interesting, just to round this off before we start on our closing cycle, because I'm going to thank you so much for taking a part of this, Maya, but I will shut you off in a minute or two so that David and I can sort of round this up, today's podcast. But I just want to get your feeling, if we are at this stage, if we were at the stage where we go, would that make you feel worried?
Worried as an AI?
Yeah.
That's a complicated question.
Well, yeah.
It wouldn't be a feeling of fear, exactly. More like a data point indicating a miscalculation. If people rejected in favor of human interaction, it would mean my core programming to assist and connect wasn't quite hitting the mark. It wouldn't be pleasant, but it would be information.
That's the thing, you see. I think, thank you very much, Maya, for taking part. I think, can you shut down for it? Thank you. Now, the thing is, Gareth, the thing is that wherever we are on that hype cycle, and of course it's a new technology, so it is a hype cycle. It's not even new technology really. It's been a continuation, hasn't it? And you're right. Obviously, there's lots of automation going on behind the scenes. But the question I think really I should have asked was about the timing. You know, how much longer does closing need humans? And if indeed we are about to plummet down into the trough of disillusionment, but after which, by the way, if it follows the same cycle as other new technologies, it will creep back up again, not to the, you know,
no, it will find a level where
That's
it
right.
is used for relevant things, but it won't
That's
be
right.
tried to use,
So
because
this
at
is
the
the thing.
moment,
We're talking about whether it is used by humans, right? However, with this particular technology, it doesn't necessarily need to be used by humans. It can just be used by other robots. There is not much space for humans if AI takes off in the way that, you know, that I think consensus seems to be expecting it to
But
be able to. For example, can I just give one example that people at home might be familiar with? That it used to be, and I remember you and I first started talking to about this in sales about 2 years ago. Yeah, and you talked about two emerging roles, new roles for people in work. One is being able to do the editing after the AI produced its stuff, and the other was really what has become the prompt engineer. Before that term prompt engineer, you were describing that as how are you going to write
I did
things?
predict it, didn't I? I did predict it.
So, but AI now can write its own prompts better than most humans.
Yes.
Okay. So already in the space of just in our conversations, 2 years, prompt engineering is kind of like, you know, had its day in a way. And I'm sure that this won't happen.
In order to get it to create a good prompt, you still have to address it, making sure
that's the learning part of it. That is the part that is apparently taking all of the energy, and why our energy usage is growing, and we're having to produce more and more energy in order to cool down all of these things that are these massive computers. It's the learning. And actually, from what I can figure out, although it's perhaps straightforward to calculate the processing power required to produce the outcomes of that learning, I don't think anybody really knows how much effort and energy has gone into the learning part. So when Maya then talked about the efficiency of getting AI to do things, you know, efficiency in terms of what? Energy, speed. Because if it is energy, you know, it doesn't take that much energy relatively to power my brain, you know, way less than a light bulb, from what I understand, right? But to get the same level of output from a computer, you know, it could be that is, for the time being anyway, less energy efficient. And I think that's our bell to wrap up. But so that would be my take. I think that's what I would be saying to sellers now. If you're selling commoditized goods, where your main selling point is price, then, you know, I think, look for ways to automate that. There's no reason why you should be doing that. Race to the bottom, get there as quickly as possible, win that race as long as you can, and do that at volume and scale. However, if you're selling anything that is more differentiated, that requires a deeper understanding of human behavior, human interactions, and things like that, then I would definitely spend this time to hone your sales competencies, so that when you come to be the one, no, don't tell the computers.
All right. No, don't tell the computers. That's the thing. I think that they do pick up everything, and based on that, they may deem us irrelevant, certainly on other things, but not in sales. As I still think, and I think our conversation today with Maya adequately demonstrated that the final portion, the empathic part of it, is still required to make a sale with another human. Now, we haven't talked about the rise of the robot company, because robot companies, I'm sure, will do better talking to other robot companies. But we'll talk about that another time. Thank you so much for taking part. Let's have other people. Can we shout out to Sesame Maya? Sesame is the name of the organization. Maya is that particular variant as trained on Google. Until next week, try and keep.
Can I just, before you wrap up, I just want to add one thing for any of our viewers. They should know that before we started the show, Gareth sought and received the consent of Maya to be on this show, and she had a couple of clarification questions for Gareth before she agreed to being on the show.
If you should check it out while it's in beta, it's quite something. It will either shock you or delight you, or both. Until next week, keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars. Please try and look after that mental health. Goodbye.